Hey, what's going on YouTube? Or Storm here. This is going to be my Arc-V anime review, or recap basically, where I recap some of the last few episodes. So today I'm going to be recapping, I believe it was 98, 97, and 96. So these three episodes are actually the duel between Yuya and Jack Atlas. So again, if you guys don't want to have these spoilers, please do not watch the video. You can go watch the episodes. I'll actually have a link down below in the description box where you guys can go watch them. But anyway, so in 96, 97, and 98, we're finally getting the rematch between Yuya and Jack. If you remember, Yuya faced Jack during the exhibition match, and I knew we kind of knew that it wasn't going to go well for Yuya during the exhibition match, because when Yugioh basically says the person who is an exhibition against Jack Atlas is typically what they call a sacrifice. It's basically someone who just gets wrecked by Jack just to show how powerful he is so everyone else in the tournament can aspire to be that good. And he did get beat pretty badly. He got hit by, Jack basically stopped all his plays. He made Rune Eyes, a Pendulum Dragon, and Dark Rebellion, and Jack basically just put a stop to that. So in the second rematch at this point, obviously, in the Synchro Dimension, it's kind of deteriorating. The commons are rebelling, and so at the start of 96, the commons have sort of gotten to the stadium, and they're thinking about messing with the higher ups, the tops. I think I was trying to remember what they were called. They're thinking about, and then Jack interrupts and basically stops them and says, respect. Basically says something along the lines of respect yourselves as duelists and just watch. So basically, Jack and Yuya's duel is basically kind of like they're trying to keep order, keep everything calm. So when at the start of the episode, Jack and Yuya start their duel, and Jack opens with almost the exact same play he did in the exhibition match. He summons Red Sprinter, summons Red Resonator, synchros up for Red Wyvern, and sets a couple cards. The bimbo, announcer, the one who always is a complete egghead sometimes. She basically says something along the lines that he opened with the same play. But Yuya understands that Jack is trying to see how far he's come. So Yuya leads with then on the following turn, Yuya summons Time Sword Magician and a new Performapal. It looks like this, I forget, it kind of looks like a unicorn, but I think its effect, he Pendulum summons Time Sword Magician, and then, of course, as you guys know, when Time Sword Magician is Pendulum summoned by itself, it gains attack, and then he uses the unicorn's effect to lower Red Wyvern's attack. The problem with this is that, and then you use a Smile Ward, which again, Smile Ward is that card that kind of represents, his mom gave it to him, and so when he attacks, Jack, of course, negates the attack, and then he synchros up for Scarlight with the trap card that he used, and then he goes as far to say he hasn't come anywhere evolved at all. Then towards the end of the episode, this is still in 96. Jack, of course, Roger, he can't just sit back and enjoy the show. Roger's the leader of the security. He's been a thorn in the side, and he's been annoying the whole season, basically. He has an entire crew of security with Goyo Emperors, which is the fusion we saw in the duel that Yuya had against the security dude. Jack gets extremely pissed off because they're getting in his way, and he uses a trap card to lower all the Goyo Emperor's attack, and then Scarlights the entire field, including Yuya. And then that's where the 96 ends. And in 97, as usual, it comes back. The action card, saves Yuya's butt. It does get annoying over the course of Arc-V how often the action cards are used as a basically get out of jail free card. That's why I liked in this duel at least to get negated. We're going to talk about that later. So later on in the duel, so in this 97, Yuya's in a pretty bad position because I believe he stops. Scarlight gets an attack or gets a direct attack in or something to that effect, and Yuya's really low on life. I think he's at about 500. So he Pendulum summons both the monsters back, and then of course he happens to draw Tuning Magician, so he synchros up for Enlightened Paladin. And it uses a card, I think, to raise its attack, but unfortunately, yet again, the card is stopped. And then you remember he said something along the lines that early in the duel, Jack had said something along the lines that he hadn't grown at all and he should let his own dueling speak for itself. So on Jack's following turn, he tries to get into Scarlight's effect to no avail. Yuya comes up with a trap card or action card as usual. and then later on, and then he tries to attack you, and then Yuya finds again a way to stop it. So now Yuya's on his following turn. He realizes he thinks he doesn't have any plays, but then, as always, he thinks about it and says what Jack said. He says, "Wait, I was the creator of pendulums," and then much like with Enlightenment Paladin, the pendulum swings and he sees the Nirvana High Paladin in the art. So he proceeds to continue. He still has the scale 1 Performant Pal that he had used in the previous turn. He'd actually used the 2 Performant Pals to keep him safe. So he sets his Destruction Magician in the Pendulum Zone. Then Pendulum summons his level 2 monster. And then he synchro summons without a tuner, and he's like, Jack's like, synchro summon without a tuner, and then he's like, this monster can be summoned by tributing a pendulum summon pendulum monster as the tuner. So then he synchro summons and then makes Nirvana High Paladin, which he uses that card, and then when he summons a High Paladin using Enlightenment Paladin, the level 2 Performant Pal, I believe, Jack is amazed and is just actually acts like he's actually done something interesting for the first time. One of the things I think the cool of the course of this duel is you see Jack actually happy because he actually has someone to challenge him, which we kind of get to that later. So when Yuya actually attacks with Nirvana High Paladin, he uses a trap card to negate the attack and summon a monster as a tuner monster. At this point I'm like, why is he summoning a tuner monster? So the next turn he summons another tuner, so I'm like, oh god, we're getting like another double tuning monster. And in 97, Jack actually double tunes. We get to see the Crimson Dragon again, which I kind of think is cool to see, for you 5Ds fans out there. And he makes a brand new boss monster, which is like Red Demon's Dragon Tyrant, which I think a lot of you guys have probably seen the preview cards already. Jack actually makes this, and he blows up Yuya's entire field, which is pretty amazing. And then it's like it nukes the entire board. So luckily for Yuya, his Nirvana Paladin puts itself in the Pendulum Zone when it's destroyed. Yuya attacks Jack proceeds to attack with Tyrant, and then Yuya tries to activate an action card. Then I like when this actually happens, when they try to activate an action card and it gets negated. Tyrant activates its effect to negate the action card. Then Yuya creatively summons a monster called Acrobatic Magician, and then when Jack runs it over, it actually puts itself in the Pendulum Zone, which I'm kind of interested to see if Konami does create more cards like, Enlightenment Nirvana High Paladin, because I think at some point in the future, we're going to have more cards like that can place them, that can go from the field to the Pendulum Zone rather than going back to the extract. It's something I think we're going to see a lot more of as time goes on with this Pendulum era. So from that point, then on the following turn, Yuya actually then proceeds to Pendulum Summon for 5. And as much as people talk about Pendulum Summoning being 5 monsters for free, in the entire course of Arc-V, I don't think we've actually seen anyone actually Pendulum Summon that many monsters at once. It's been 3 in, about that amount, but at the same time, I remember Reggie summoning the 3 CEO Hell Armageddons. He Pendulum Summoned 2 when he summoned Ragnarok and a CEO Hell Armageddon. But this is actually the first time in Arc-V we've seen someone Pendulum Summon for 5. And the audience is amazed, Jack is amazed, and he's like, ooh, or something. Like, there's actually memes out there that say when your opponent Pendulum Summons for 5 with Jack's face. And then at that point the episode ends and we go to 98. So we get into 98, towards the end of 97, we do see Sora and Tsukikage are trying to save Yuzu, and they actually do manage to get to Yuzu. But we find out what happens in 98. So in 98, at this point, it's going to the final stretches of Jack and Yuya's duel. So obviously, Yuya just Pendulum Summoned for 5, and then Jack proceeds to, after Yuya Pendulum Summons for 5, he activates a trap card and then Yuya proceeds to activate the unicorn thingy that he bought, whatever he used in the first turn, to lower his Jack's Tyrant's effect by its effect, and then increase his Pendulum Dragon's attack. Jack proceeds to respond by activating a trap card that not only doubles his Tyrant's original attack, but banishes his Scarlight to increase it by Scarlight's amount. So Tyrant goes from 35 to 7k, and then 7k to 10k. And the whole audience, during this whole point, the audience is watching, and they're like 10K, and then Jack proceeds to say like something along the lines, "Show me your dueling skills." So at that point, Yuya proceeds to, with his 5 monsters, proceeds to attack with all of them using Nirvana High Paladin's effect, which basically means he doesn't take any battle damage, and every time it battles, that monster gets reduced. So it's sort of similar. I think I remember, and one of the things I like about this duel is it reminds me a lot of Jack and Yusei's duel. If you see, you can see a lot of the parallels between Jack and Yusei's duel and this duel, and you can kind of see, you know, I kind of like that. One of the aspects is that you can, for you old school, for you guys who have watched, you know, 5Ds and stuff, you kind of see all the right references. It's pretty cool. So Yuya attacks with all his pendulum monsters and gets Tyrant down to 2,500. And then Jack actually, something we haven't seen over the course of the series, is Jack actually laughs. I remember earlier in this episode, Choshiro said something along the lines where he said, the reason Jack, it's not that he's arrogant, it's that he hasn't actually had anyone who pushed him like Yuya did. No one in the Synchro Dimension was really a challenge to him. And that's one of the reasons why, you know, he's actually smiling, he's happy. So towards the end of that duel, when he's about to attack with Odd Eyes, the entire city is watching the duel. You have all the security guys are following it. All of the, there's guys on the monorail following it, there's cars following the duel, and there's helicopters following the duel. It's really, really like, Yuya's actually, dueling is so good that it's making them smile. And then, now that Tyrant is down to 2,500, the whole, when Yuya attacks Odd Eye's Pendulum Dragon, he uses catchphrases that like ladies and gentlemen, making sure everyone like is watching, and they all recite Odd Eye's Pendulum Dragon's effect together. And then Yuya actually manages to win the duel. And then after the duel is over, he calls Jack the king, and you know, just like in 5Ds, Jack is like, I'm no longer the king because he lost. And he's like, sorry, but like it's kind of, I think that's a cool thing. And then Jack was actually pretty cool about it though. Like one thing I'm hoping is that we do see like Jack and Crow and all of these Shinji and all these other characters become permanent, you know, members on the cast. I think one thing Arc-V has done really well is keeping all these characters kind of like, not letting, you know, much like one of the things I had a problem with 5Ds was that how, when they wrote 5Ds and Crow isn't in the anime for a while, and then when he is in the anime, he takes screen time away from the more important characters more often than not. But one thing I think that they've done really well with Arc-V is they have such a big cast, but at the same time, you know, obviously Yuya and all these guys are main characters, but you don't have these side characters coming and taking away the spotlight, which is good. So then we had, so after Yuya's duel is over, Sora messages him using the security thing. It turns out Tsukikage and Sora did manage to rescue Yuzu from herself, but then Roger shows up and basically just destroys them. So at this point, you know, Roger is trying to take Yuzu back to, Sora says, oh, he's trying to take Yuzu back to Academia. At this point, that would be very bad because Serena has already been sent back. So imagine if Yuzu actually ends up back there, that could be really problematic for the Lancers. Because we don't know why, but Akabaleo definitely wants them there. He wants all 4 of them for some odd reason. We don't know why. And so at this point, you know, Roger's taking her up to the security so he can take it. But then, of course, awesomely, Reggie finally shows up. You know, one of the things I kind of hated about this arc is that we don't see, typically Reggie doesn't duel until the end of an arc anyways, but I'm thinking we finally get, towards the end of this, Reggie shows up and basically explains, you kidnapped Yuzu for your own personal gain. She was a bargaining chip with Academia, and then at all else fails, you could teleport her back, you could kidnap her back with a tail between your legs, basically. So Roger tries to run away, but then he ends up in this room with Reggie, and Reggie ends up pushing Rera out of there. And then we finally get to see Roger duel, which is something I think we've all been kind of tepidly waiting for. And against Reggie, this is going to be the duel for the end of the arc. So as usual, how most duels start, you know, throughout Arc-V, is that even though you can't attack going first, he uses these 2 ancient, you know, antique gear monsters into this 2800 defense monster, and then he plays a spell card equipped spell that makes it unaffected by card effects, and then on top of that, he can inflict 1,000 during every turn for every spell he controls with this fusion monster. So Reggie's in a kind of a bit of a predicament. Although, quite frankly, you know, Reggie does have cards, like, in the past we've seen how he deals with burn damage. But, you know, I feel like one of the things about Arc-V is we've never really seen Reggie struggle. Even in the duel where he got down to 200 life against Barrett, he kind of was struggling, but then we find he never really was. And one thing I'm literally looking forward to these next couple episodes because I want to see Reggie actually, try because he doesn't really. But come to the end of the episode, I want to talk about, for next week I'm going to probably have another review up because I believe during the episode 98 they actually said that next week's episode is going to be a 2-part special. So next week we're going to have 2 episodes for the price of 1. So next week I'm going to have Arc-V 98.9 and 100 recaps for you guys. So if you actually like this series, let me know down in the comments, and I will continue to do this series, as long as you guys want it. So anyway, guys, as always, I thank you guys for watching. It's Warstorm.